And we are live. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 7 of ChatGDG with a great guest, actually, two guests. So, one of these guests is a GDG, so it's part of GDG Cloud London. She's a GDE in cloud, right? Women
Yes.
Techmaker Ambassador. What
Yeah.
else? You are a public speaker. You do public speaking, and you also work as a cloud architect for Zencore.
Yes.
You should be quite busy. Welcome, Natalie. How are you?
Hello, I am quite busy. Actually came back to London 2 days ago from like
Okay.
almost a month away. Hi everyone, thank you for having me. This is my cat. His name is
Nice.
Romeo.
Yes.
And yeah, I
And we've
am
got sorry the first comment and hardcore traveler from
an
Bruno.
hardcore traveler. There you go, a fun little story to start off the today's session. I met my favorite Ukrainian writer a couple of months ago. Aside of all the things that listed, I am also a photographer, and I
Yeah.
volunteer as a photographer for the Ukrainian Institute in London.
Nice. Very good.
And they brought my favorite Ukrainian writer to do a fireside chat, Irena Karpa. And I got a book signed from her, and she asked me, "What do I wish for?" And I wished for travels and adventures. And she paused for a second and said, "Be careful because the wishes that I write and sign always come true." And now that I've been hardcore traveling with a lot of adventure for the past couple of months, I'm kind of looking back at that and thinking, she was right.
So be very careful of what you wish because it can be true. So oh, there is Hannah. Hey Hannah, she say hi
Hey,
Natalie.
Anna.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, nice to
So
see you here.
Natalie, like who are you? Like what's how can you introduce yourself to the audience?
I am a Ukrainian living in London, as you might have figured out. I am a senior cloud architect currently working at Zencore. I design, architect, and implement cloud platforms on Google Cloud. Um, my background is in systems engineering. Like we're gonna talk like work side, professional side of things for a second. My background is in systems engineering. I studied networks for 7 years, thinking to be a network engineer and go to CDNs like and SDNs and stuff like that. And then randomly, the destiny threw me into a DevOps internship, and I fell in love. Decided to stay in the area in the kind of domain of DevOps, systems engineering, platform engineering, and then cloud. I worked with like loads of different companies in Switzerland and then in London, from a private bank to a massive 70,000 people company, worldwide bank, to a unicorn startup that was doing two clouds at the same time and was doing very cool things using cloud native technology, surprisingly in a surprising industry. And then when I thought that I needed a new venture, a new adventure, I thought about what I enjoyed doing most in my day to day, and it was when other teams would come to me, to my team. I was on the data platforms team, and when other teams like analysts and data scientists would come to us and be like, "Hey, I want to run a web app, a data science web app on Streamlit, and I want to host it like on the cloud and give access to it to my team, but only my team and nobody else. And I want to protect the networks." And we would sit down and design the solution for that problem. And that's what I enjoyed the most, when someone came to me with a problem and we designed something, we created something out of nothing. That kind of sounds like professional services and consulting. So I decided to try that out and moved on, joined Zencore in January, and it's been great, it's been glorious. I've been having a lot of fun, a lot of challenges as well, but that's what I kind of like about the professional side of things. Um, Another side of my professional identity is public speaking. As you mentioned, I just love doing it, and the Google sponsored communities of experts and women Techmakers ambassadors. Those come with my passion to being part of the community and giving back to the community. So I travel around, not the entire world yet. Watch this space.
Give it time.
Yes, but just giving back to the community. And I've always loved um, this aspect of being in tech, this aspect of being in systems in DevOps kind of engineering space. There are so many passionate people who love telling others what they've done. And that's how I've always learned. I've enjoyed reading others, the blogs that other people write and watching YouTube videos, learning from others, from other engineers who have solved these problems that I'm facing. For example, I haven't read a single technical book in my entire life.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's a fun
Okay,
fact to you.
unusual. Okay.
Unusual, exactly, unusual. Um, and so I've always looked at like speakers of the meetups and the cool tech that they're working with, and wanted to be that person, to work with that cool tech, to explore new possibilities and solve curious and quirky and bizarre problems, and then go and tell other people about it. And maybe someone else would be inspired from what I've done and my team has done and do something else, and I also share it. We all share knowledge and propagate the knowledge. So that's where the passion for public speaking comes from.
That's impressive, I guess. I only have 75 questions and then we're done. No,
Oh,
I'm
let's
kidding.
go.
No, okay. So first there is Jen, totally interested in what you say around data. Okay, so that is definitely a topic that we are going to cover. But before that, no, sorry, there is also Felipe. Nice background. I think he's referring to your lovely, which is great. Yes.
These are photos that I took and printed and put on my wall.
I mean, can you get any better than that? No, it just can't. So so DevOps, this word, DevOps platform, DevOps infrastructure. Let's imagine that there is someone listening that has no idea what we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about. What is DevOps? How can we
Mm-hmm.
describe DevOps?
Mm-hmm. Take your phone and see any apps that you have on your phone. And behind every app, there is a system running behind the scenes. There is, if you're familiar with software engineering or with coding, there is obviously code that is describing how your app should behave and look like on your phone. But behind that code, there is a system that that code runs on. In very simple terms, it's a bunch of computers that are running
Mm.
somewhere else. You also have a computer, you have a laptop, maybe you have like a tower, like a desktop. Imagine those, but on a bigger scale, and there are loads of them, and they're running somewhere else. When you buy a new computer, it cannot do anything. And similarly, like if you just buy a piece of networking equipment, it will not do anything. Or even like a NAS, a storage system for your
Mhm.
downloaded torrented movies, that it will not do anything unless you configure it. So systems engineering is configuring all of those things, but on a big scale, on a systematic scale, and on one that enables people like developers to create apps, create their software, create new processes and cool things for you as a user to then have in the palm of your hand and just have access to the whole entire planet through your phone, because other people have created those layers and layers and layers of systems behind.
Okay, wow, that's pretty very interesting actually. And that what so what's the like why do you like more working on something like that instead of, for example, on a product on a front end of the product? Is there any specific reason why should prefer to configure things rather than
Mhm.
something different?
That's a good question. I guess, especially giving an example of front end, like I'm a very creative person. So I actually, my initial idea of career path was graphic design, which I pursued in parallel with studying systems engineering when I was like 16, 17, 18. Um, I don't have a consistent flow of inspiration for visual design and
Mm.
graphic design. I guess front end would fall under that category. I love doing it. It's very interesting. I find it fascinating. but I don't have inspiration to do it consistently. It doesn't spark me consistently. And also in everything visual, in photography, it's a little bit less, but things like video and graphic design, I will spend hours to make sure that every pixel is in the right place, which isn't very effective and leads to loads of frustration and the inspiration dropping as well. When I discovered, first of all, when I was studying, just throughout university, throughout all of my studies and then internships, there were subjects that I liked more than the others. For example, C++, hate. Databases, interesting. Java, network security, tell me more. Naturally you discover things that you're more interested in. And I think we, like, especially in the Western world, like in Europe, we have so many opportunities that it would be such a shame to not pursue those things that spark your interest naturally. So I just followed the dopamine. I just followed the dopamine. And somehow with DevOps, with systems engineering, with cloud architecture, I just stay consistently inspired and motivated to do it. So I just follow that path.
Interesting. I asked because, for me it was different. I was always been a more front-endy, person. So, I need to see something. I need to have a visual representation of what I'm doing. So that's the slight difference.
Right.
Very interesting question. Sorry, from Jen. I think a lot of folks have disconnects between DevOps on cloud versus DevOps on premises. How does that get bridged?
It's the same skill set. Cloud is easier or more complicated, depending how you look at it, but it's the same skill set. You look at systems, you work with VMs, even if we're talking about Cloud Functions and Lambda, there's still a process running under the hood. There's still a Docker container somewhere. There's still network. There's still routers and routes and firewall rules and whatnot. Depending what flavor of cloud you use, it will be different. Like, I prefer serverless, despite having studied networks for 7 years. Give me an environment with no networks, please. I will be so happy. And you will be happy because it's easier to manage. But it's still the same kind of skill set. It's the ability to, like, the core skill of DevOps, any other name of this profession that you can imagine, SRE, platform engineers, production engineers, systems engineers, platform engineers, all of those things. Yeah. The core skill is the ability to see and imagine a system and to solve problems. So whether you're solving problems on-prem and whether you're solving problems in the cloud, that the ability to do that stays the same.
Yeah,
and I moved from on-prem to cloud, and I just transferred my skill set.
You might just need to maybe tweak here and there, maybe learning a couple of more stuff, but the foundations, that should be.
Yeah, exactly. And like the cloud can be, there are so many abstractions in the cloud, but also in on-prem. Like, nobody is running on-prem with a physical, like, computer being the OS on which you run a process. Very few people do. In general, you have a bunch of servers and you run hypervisors on them, and you spin up VMs as you need, and on those VMs you run Docker containers or Kubernetes. So it's already abstracted in a very similar way to the cloud. But the cloud adds more layers, of course, and with the serverless products, with specific tailored products that are designed to solve a particular thing, there's a lot of confusing bits very often. If you are coming from the on-prem environment and you would try to understand, like, let's take Cloud Run, which is like, take a container, throw it to the cloud, it will run. Where it runs, and then and then you can deploy a specific thing called VPC access connector that makes that container run in your VPC, but it's not in your VPC. How does that work? Like, it is in your VPC, but technically it's running in another project, potentially in another part of the data center. Those parts, imagining how it actually works, is challenging. But then, if you are really skilled in your data center design and your on-prem infrastructures and management, you can find analogies and you can understand how it can be abstracted and how it can be made into software that just works smoothly without you having to know how it works.
Yeah, that makes sense. As Jen correctly said, oh yes, networking is art. Yes, it is art.
Mm-hmm.
It's very art. Very skilled. Oleg, hello, hello, welcome. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious, right? Because we mentioned 70,000 people company, so very corporate. We mentioned startup. We mentioned scale up. We mentioned consultancy. Like, wow, so you've almost experienced all, right? So now I think if I were to ask you what's your favorite, you probably answer what you're doing now. I think in terms of, because of course is your passion. You just started, so I'm sure that you will keep on this track. But for example, what's the difference between working on a 70,000 people company, the enterprise, massive
Mm-hmm.
enterprise, or for example for a scale up less than 1,000 people? What's the difference there?
Mm-hmm. Let me answer your first question as well, and then move on to this one, because I think the first one is interesting as well.
Mhm.
Which one is your favorite?
Okay.
Currently, yes, currently Zencore is my favorite place to work, but it hasn't always been the case in my career. Like working for a small, teeny tiny boutique consultancy that goes to other companies and builds stuff for them wouldn't always be my favorite place to work. I have grown into that position
Hmm.
over the years. But if we take just the size of the company and like the type of the company, I think my favorite size is between like 800 and 5,000.
Mm.
That's where I'm most comfortable with. And it's not a startup because I like in a startup you would, and that's actually something that I haven't worked with. Coming into a small, tiny startup where everyone wears every hat, and today you're an SRE and tomorrow you're a front-end engineer.
Okay.
I haven't done that. And there was a reason why I didn't go into that. I wasn't comfortable with my own skill set and with my own ability to take it all. And
Yep.
I think for me, the most comfortable was between 800 and 5,000 people because things are in place. There are processes in place that make life maybe easier or harder, depending. There is room to grow. There is room to expand and experiment and be creative in your work. But it's also an already established company, right? And how did I find out? By working in companies of different size. Similarly to what I mentioned, like how I found out that DevOps was my thing, just like studying different subjects, and you figure out that, oh, I kind of like that. And I remember we were doing the GDG Academy and mentoring students, and they were asking how do you where should I go? Where should be my first job? And my answer to them was you try. You try every size and you figure out what's your cup of tea. You'll figure it
Exactly.
out. Now to the second question, which is
Hmm.
about the difference, like what's different between working in a scale up versus working in a 70,000 people company. The speed of work is very different. In a smaller company, and especially in a startup and in a scale up, and if you have a unicorn status, the speed of things is crazy,
Hmm.
and you need to be able to adapt to that speed of things. In a big, large enterprise, the things move slowly, and it's not always bad. It allows you and everyone else to have a life. I had a parallel life with working in that large 70,000 people enterprise. I was training to be a professional dancer, like training 10 hours a week, going to the gym
Wow.
5 hours a week, doing kind of rehearsals and sometimes shows in parallel with having a full-time job. And it was comfortable. I was also 25 years old. I don't know if I would do that. Pandemic,
Different
especially.
level of energy, let's put it that way.
Yeah. But things move slower, and there are downsides to that, obviously, because my favorite example is our ops team. Our ops team was in Hungary. Some of our systems team was in Hong Kong. The core Unix team was in London, and then the developers were in New York. So the Hong Kong team would wake up and they would find the bug. They would report it to the ops team. By the time the ops team wakes up, the Hong Kong team goes to bed. The ops team debugs, figures out that it's systems, gives it over to us. So from Hungary to London,
In London, okay.
or something similar. We wake up, we debug it. We're like, oh, it's the developer's fault. And we send it over to New York. New York wakes up, spends 4 hours in meetings with London. Then we go home and they have time to do some work. So they try to fix something, they deploy it, and then the cycle continues. So you can imagine for debugging just one little thing, it takes 24 hours just for the for the feedback loop to close. And scheduling meetings with Australia and Japan.
It's interesting, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
When you look at calendars, trying to find the common time, not
Right.
easy.
So I can wake up at 7:30 and have this call, or I can stay until 1 in the morning.
Exactly.
Those were the options.
Trade-offs, right? Okay.
Um,
Very, very interesting.
there is another thing that is quite
Mhm.
interesting. Like in a startup, a scale up, a smaller company, you will likely have a larger set of responsibilities and larger set of set of skills. In a large enterprise, if you have a database issue, you call the DBA.
Yeah.
If you have a networking issue, you call the network team. If you have a security issue, there is a security team. There is a team for everything.
For everything, yes. It's
Makes the
very
feedback loop
specialized.
larger.
Yeah.
It's very specialized. So it's more comfortable. For example, for me, I joined that company with like a year and a half of experience. So it was more comfortable for me to learn the kind of the depth of like Unix systems and like data centers and kind of configuration as code and managing large infrastructures, Docker and Kubernetes. We were trying to do not bare metal, but Kubernetes on VMs with like physical routers.
Okay.
The pods and services subnets that you just like let the cloud automatically figure out.
Mhm.
You would have to program that into the switches and the routers
Fun
in the data
times.
center in the rack. So that was fun. But I
Okay.
was comfortable knowing that there is a lot of people with a lot of skills. And if I mess up, there is a big safety net
Yeah.
beneath me. And also there was an ops team, a dedicated ops team, which is also a big difference. You're not responsible for dealing with outages or like problems or things like that, because there is a dedicated ops team. You as an engineering team, if you are on the engineering team, you deal with creating new things and deploying new things,
So
right?
you were not on call, right? No,
That
because
was that was
okay.
interesting actually.
Okay.
There was no formal on call,
Mm.
but we were on call all the time. But there was such a big ops team that we are like I got called twice in 2.5 years.
Mm.
Both times someone else had dealt with it
Yeah.
before my help was needed.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah.
I've got that's super interesting. And then I think this question is spot on. Natalie, what's the hardest part of your job?
Oh,
Huh.
oh, oh.
Interesting question. Yes,
My
not
current job
an easy
or a
one.
systems person in general?
I would
Um,
say both, if you can quickly think like
yeah.
both things.
As, the hardest part of being a systems person, dealing with core infrastructures of your company, is that the leadership doesn't think that you're needed. Mentally, it's not fun.
Okay.
In terms of budget, it's not fun.
I see
Having
what you
half
mean.
of your team laid off or half of the projects cancelled because the leadership decided that it's not the time, we don't have budgets, so we'll just,
Mhm.
what's the biggest cost center in our engineering department? Oh, the core infrastructure team.
Mm-mm-mm.
Trying to explain to C-levels and high top managers and product owners that if you don't do your job, nothing will work. That's the hardest part. Knowing that you will never explain to them. That's the hardest part, especially if you're in security. Security always gets pushed back to the furthest bench behind the scenes. There is not even like the ship is flowing and the security is like being dragged on a boat and nobody even looks at it. And knowing that you will never convince them, the top managers, that
It's frustrating,
you,
isn't it? Yes.
yeah, I
is a
can
lost
turn off the
battle.
entire business with a click of a button,
Yeah.
but you can't explain it. That's the hardest part of
It's
like.
very difficult. It's very difficult to explain stuff like this, stuff like on a product side, so more on a product engineering. The tech debt is the
Exact.
never-ending, quest for a software engineer to try to find the balance between shipping stuff, because of course we want to ship stuff, but also
Mhm,
tech debt is important. And the analogy that I found out that hopefully is interesting and can be used for, you know, in order to having this conversation with senior stakeholders. I always say tech debt is like sleep. So if you don't do that, right, you may maybe work, instead of sleeping 7 hours per night, you can try to sleep 3 hours per night. And in
mhm,
theory, you think that you gain 4 hours of work, but that is
mhm.
not true, because if you don't sleep, the productivity goes down. So you might produce more for 2 or 3 days, but then pretty much get that's it, and then things start to go badly. Tech debt is exactly like this. Doesn't produce immediate value, but it really
Mhm.
helps you in the medium and in the long run.
Yeah, that is such a clever analogy. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
that
I'll definitely
worked.
note it down.
That worked. Yeah, yeah. To take a little note, that already worked a couple of times. So okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, like explaining you, I don't know, Kubernetes upgrades. We need to upgrade Kubernetes clusters because otherwise we'll be in trouble. Things will break. We know they will break. No, but they're working now, right?
Yes. Now.
Please listen to us. you
Yeah,
know.
I know.
And the hardest part of and like last note on that, like
Hmm.
you see that I clearly have a lot of pain points on this, but I try to keep a positive outlook on
Yeah,
it
of
on
course.
it anyway, because like it will always be the reality. And if you're going into that path, it will be your life. You just have to know that it's the case. Find tricks like Stefano's trick with sleep and
Analogy.
analogies.
Find good analogies.
Add
That's
no
one
good
of the
analogies.
core skills for a DevOps engineer.
Yeah, exactly. But it will still probably be the case for your entire career. So
Mm,
just be ready for it and kind of like take it lightheartedly.
yeah.
And the hardest part of my current job is when we have loads of different projects, and like if I'm working on, say, 3 different projects at the same time, remembering how to log in into everyone's systems is something that I haven't figured
Ah,
out yet.
interesting. Okay. Yeah. You need to deal with a lot of authentication and credentials and tokens and,
Yeah,
okay, all
because
that fun
we
stuff.
go yeah we go into the customer's systems
Mm,
because we go and like we provide architectural guidance as experts in the cloud, in Google Cloud, experts in technology. We come and can analyze and build architecture and help guide the enterprise in their cloud strategy or data strategy, but we also do implementations. And everyone has their own ways of working and their own systems. Someone might work with like Microsoft tools, someone might have a Jira, and someone might give you access to their Jira via your existing email, like my Zencore email. Someone else might create you their own account,
yeah.
internal account, and you need to
Hmm.
remember to log in. Remembering those things, I haven't fully figured that out yet.
Okay, that's more of a managerial kind of things. Maybe try to, I mean, that should be a software, right, in order to deal
Mhm.
with that. Or if no, you know, startup, no, I'm kidding. No, let's not
There's
launch
an
a
idea for
startup.
you.
That's an idea,
Hmm.
maybe for the. I missed this very interesting question. Sorry, that I think that was from like 15 minutes ago. I think folks also get scared around trying out cloud and getting built. Yeah, this is very interesting, right? And when they're doing things on prem, how would you reduce those fears and barriers? All of us, we've heard and we've read horror stories, AWS, GCP, Microsoft, like this thing
Yeah.
unfortunately happen and can happen to every vendor. So what's the deal there?
You engage a cloud partner like Zencore when you're embarking on the
Ta-da!
journey.
Okay.
uh, like knowing the stories is half of the journey. Knowing that it can happen and proactively seeking ways to stop it from happening. You can on every cloud there are billing alerts that are relatively easy to set up on the organization, like core level. You set it up once. You say my budget is £100 a month, and it will alert you on like the levels that you set up, like 50% or 80%, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's the easiest thing you can do. How to combat fears? Cost estimations work pretty well. Knowing that, like knowing what you want to do is really important, because if you just go into the cloud and you don't know what exactly you want, what workloads you want to run, how much data you're going to have, what are you going to do with that data, it's more difficult and like more vague how much it will cost, right? But if you have a pretty good idea for like a POC, you identify a workload that you want to move to the cloud, you identify some sort of data set, or like a part of your data warehouse, how you can move it to the cloud. Are you going to move big pieces, like big bits of data regularly? How much data that is going to be? Are you crossing regions? That kind of thing. Like having a pretty good idea of like the amount of data and the workloads that you want to run helps estimate the cost
Okay.
pretty nicely. So then you're not going into it blindsided. You have a calculation and you can kind of stick to that calculation. Things do get out of hand. Catching those things getting out of hand is really important. That's where those billing alerts come in handy. Every cloud provider has a billing report dashboard built in, where you can see who is spending what on what resources, what's going on. You let in a data scientist that is running 96 GPUs 24/7,
That
then you
can be
can
a
kind of
problem.
identify.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be a problem.
Yeah. So you need to be, ready pretty much. Just don't go blindly. Do your research. Try to prep as much as possible. Try to pay attention. Oh, Eddie. Hey, Stefano and Natalie.
Eddie,
Hey, Eddie.
hi.
How are you, man? Eddie. Eddie is great. He's one of the greatest person in the tech industry. And it's not even close. The stuff that he did for all the, community is incredible. It's very, very incredible. It's very inspiring person, Eddie. Yes. So
Also a hardcore traveler.
oh wow. Oh, he's a really hardcore trainer. No, it's not even. No, we are past that. We are beyond that. He's a
Yeah,
digital. He's actually a digital
he says
nomad.
it. Yeah, yeah, he
He's a
is. It's true.
proper in the real sense of the term. So he's literally living, I don't know, like 6 months per year somewhere else. So he's,
Mhm.
very, very hardcore. Nice one, Andy. Yes. Speaking of, thank you. Okay. Thank you both for always including me in your tech adventure. Thank to you,
Thank you
Eddie.
for
Thank
tagging
to you.
along.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, community. See, I mean, Eddie was the perfect bridge in order to, yeah.
Mhm,
Why don't we? So we said a lot of words: GDG, GDE, double tick maker, GDSC. Like, what's this confusion? Like, what's all of that? What's this Google community word? Like, when did you, approach to this
mm,
the community aspect of tech?
mhm. That's interesting. So there is a story that links, like each stage of the story links to the next stage. So I had, when I joined my previous company, the Unicorn Scale Up, I went to a party of a former colleague of the team, and after a couple of glasses of prosecco,
Mm.
decided to declare to my new manager that I wanted to do public speaking. Um,
Okay.
so, and he was like, "Cool." He supported me massively in it. It's super
Okay. Nice.
important, and I
Mm.
really appreciate it. And so I tried to do that while I was with that company, obviously talking about the cool things that we were doing there. Um, and at some point, the Google customer engineer, the Google Cloud customer engineer that was supporting us on our like data and ML journey, suggested that I apply for program called Women Developers Academy that is done by Google. It's an application program, and you declare your interest and why you want to be an active person in the tech community, and it's geared towards helping women in tech develop a better presence in the community and develop a better kind of set of skills of how to be a public person, how to build a public brand, how to kind of maintain your activities in whatever you do, how to do presentations, how to do I don't know, confidence, how to speak properly, all those things, engaging storytelling, and that sort of stuff. And so I applied and was accepted, and it was 6 weeks, I think, in autumn 2021.
Okay.
So that was my way into all of the community programs that Google does. And it's not only Google that does these things. Microsoft has programs like this. AWS has programs like this. GitHub, Terraform, HashiCorp. All of the big tech companies have that have a lot of people use their products, like SaaS or cloud providers. They have those kind of programs because they recognize the value that community brings to their product immediately, meaning that they can have feedback from people who are actually using their products in like maybe non-conventional or more non-trivial ways, but also by like it's free advertising in a way for them.
No, sure.
So they
yes.
So they foster the communities, and they want to champion and support people who are actively using and talking about their products. So that's around the product facing side of things. Google also has Women Techmakers, which is a global network of people who work in tech and would like to see more diversity in tech. Thank you. So it's not just
we have the
women.
banner here. See, I changed the banner
Nice.
in Women Techmakers.
Nice.
Yeah, over there.
So it's not only women. For example, Stefano, you became a Women Techmakers
Yes,
Ambassador like a month ago.
correct.
Round of applause for
Yay!
Stefano.
That was super cool.
It's really a network of people who want to see more diversity and to want to celebrate contributions of women in tech. And what I like about it is that like I think the primary way is like organizing events that celebrate women in tech, or mentorship, or things that are like you are actively mentoring or teaching someone. Also, there is another side, which is leading by example. And that's what I am active in. By being an active woman who is a successful engineer and architect, and going out and doing public speaking and improving my own public speaking skills and building my network and like creating a brand, I am just actively showing everyone that women can also be successful in tech, which is great. And I enjoy the fact that you don't always have to organize events. I love organizing events, but I wouldn't do it full time all the time. So that was after the Women Developers Academy. They shared those networks and communities with us and shared the application form when it opened. So if we wanted to, we could apply. Another thing that they shared with us was a mentoring program for GDs. GDs is Google Developer Experts. These are invite only, interview only, like you have to pass interviews, communities of they call us thought leaders, and I find it very humbling and nice. People who are actively showing expertise in a specific product. So that's what I was saying, like Microsoft, Amazon, GitHub have product experts networks that they champion. Same for Google. And there are different categories. For example, ML or Android or web technologies or Flutter, for example.
Yes.
So the technologies that Google actively contributes to. One of those categories is cloud platform. That's where I'm at GD in. There was a mentoring program before we could apply. You have to be invited either by a Googler or I think an existing GDE to apply for becoming a GDE. And through that mentoring program, which was called Road to GDE,
Okay.
we could be invited if the program committee agreed that we were ready, and then the respective kind of product team, like for me it was the Google Cloud team, agreed that I was ready to apply. So I did that, and kind of you need to gather all of your activities that you've done for the past 2 or 3 years in the matter of their importance and relevance to the technology that you're applying for. Like your motivation is really important. Like becoming a GD because you want to travel to Google events. That's not why people become GDs. And then you have 2 interviews. One is technical for your actual expertise in your actual area that you're applying for. And the one is community, where you have a chat with another GD to make sure that that your intentions are genuine, because it is a fairly small community, and it's important that people who are part of this community and network, that they represent the best of the values of people who are contributing actively publicly to the community, to foster like a positive outlook, to foster a positive community, because then it propagates and we have more people who think nicely or like positively and feel comfortable in tech, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But all
snowball
of that,
effect in a positive way.
exactly. All of that came out of our customer engineer at my previous job, Philip Gracio,
Nice.
recommending me to apply for, like referring me to apply for Women Developer Academy.
Wow, pretty nice. There are like a few questions and stuff. So let's go. Natalie, you are a great inspiration from Eddie. Ooh,
You are a great inspiration.
Eddie. Both of you are absolutely great. Then also Eddie, when are we all geeking out again? Code Bar conference in 2 weeks. I don't know what's this conference. Code
I
Bar.
haven't heard of it either.
I don't know.
2 weeks?
Okay,
Is it in
send
London?
in 2 weeks in London. Okay, send us details, Eddie. Send us details, please, because it maybe. Then, sorry, a couple of interesting questions. Like one was this: what's the difference between creating a personal brand and then just supporting women in tech?
Ooh. So they are linked together, right? When the path of supporting women in tech means that you are maybe championing an internal women in tech network in your organization, for example. You're actively gathering women who work in tech and other men who want to champion, like men and other genders that want to champion women in tech. You are mentoring students, or maybe you're going out to high schools and telling school students that they can go and pursue STEM, or like just tech degrees in general. Maybe you are teaching STEM subjects on a volunteering basis to students from like less advantageous backgrounds.
Minority background.
Yeah. So that might be one of the things. You might be organizing some events that are bringing women together. You might be organizing, like obviously the International Women's Day. There is a massive campaign. Everyone is doing a massive campaign. You might be participating in that. You might be part of a hiring committee for internships in your organization, and you might be responsible for diversity and inclusion of that hiring campaign. For example, actively championing having more diversity in the tech workspace. That's the part of supporting women in tech. Building a personal brand, or like just what's it called? Leading by example, it's called.
Yes.
It's like I'm that. I exist. I exist and I'm public. And by my existence in public, being an engineer and a cloud architect, I show other people, whoever they are, wherever they live, that it's possible.
Hmm. Yeah.
There's a big saying, you can't be what you can't see. So by existing, I'm showing everyone that you can be this. You can be a geek. You can. My favorite thing in like pastime in my job is looking at logs. Very very strange and not very normal, I think. But I love it. I love looking through logs and digging out the details and figuring out what's wrong. You know. So I exist. So you also can do that. That's the difference.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. So you mentioned something about mentorship and mentoring students and all of that, and we changed again logo. Now we've got the academy logo magically. Yeah. So you've been part of the first cycle of this initiative. How was it? Like DGD Academy is a mentorship program for university students that we go through the Google community system. So through the GDSC, which is Google Developer Students Club. So there is an entity inside the university. So where these students, they are part of the core team of the GDSC chapter, and they organize activities and hackathon and presentations, and all of that is very very active. So how was your experience like with this program so far?
Inspiring.
Okay.
For the longest time, I didn't think that I could mentor someone. I didn't think that I had enough to give. And then suddenly I thought that I had. So it happens to be good timing that in we had this idea, you had this idea, and like burst it into existence of the academy. It was. I think we I think we learn as mentors as much as the mentees learn
I'm
from us,
learning
especially.
an incredible amount. Is insane how much stuff I'm learning by mentoring people.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Um, and just like knowing what the current students are up to, what they're thinking, um, how much work they have. Jesus,
Yes.
can they please
Yeah.
have a life as well? No, thank you. Um, but yeah, no, it was super interesting and like curious to see like what they study as well, what their
Mm.
assignments are, because it's very different from like I studied in Ukraine and then in Switzerland in EPFL. Um, the Polytechnique of Lausanne, the sister
Okay.
university of Polytechnique, but in Lausanne, sister university of ETH Zurich, which is I think a bit more famous.
Hmm.
And we studied out different things, and so it was interesting to see what they study and what they want to be as well. A lot of them, like even in the group conversations, were like, "I want to do AI." Okay, what do you want to do in AI? Do you know that AI is pretty much math and statistics? Is that what you want to do? Oh no, I want to do this and this. And a lot of them showed entrepreneur, like business kind of
Yes.
vibe in
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
They wanted to like create a product.
Yes.
Interesting, interesting, very interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was incredible. I really learned a lot, and also is a way of you staying in touch with a different generation, right? Because of course, I don't think that we hang out with 20, 21
Mm,
years old that much, and
mm,
that's pretty cool because is an opportunity to
mm,
exactly as you say, like to see what's going on there. So what are
mhm.
these people thinking? What do you no how do they see the world? You know what I mean? I think it's pretty valuable, pretty interesting. I wanted to finish this chat just touching upon this public speaking life, right? So conferences, you know, is amazing, it's cool because there is traveling involved, there is community involved, meeting bazillion amount of people every conference, which
Yeah.
is great. But also, I would imagine there has to be one or two, trade-offs. So,
Hmm.
what's your view there? What's your experience in terms of conferences?
It's really something that I wanted to do a lot.
Mm,
I think like we can like there can be theories and stipulations on like the personality types and but I used to be a dancer, so I love to be on stage. I love that
yeah,
that energy, and I think I just translated that passion into public speaking in the tech environment. Um, it's like you. it would be hypocritical to say like, oh no, it's just about sharing knowledge. You get a kick out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You get
Absolutely.
adrenaline, you get pleasure, you
Yes.
well, of course, if you love it, like if you like it, if you enjoy public speaking. I enjoy public speaking. A lot of people find it extremely stressful. The feedback, the questions, the energy you get, the like the reactions, and
Mm.
then people coming to you, like you get a high,
Yes.
out of it, and it's exciting. And it drives you to be better at your job, I think, because it drives you to like try more things and do more amazing things that you can then share with the community, get more of the dose of the high, and repeat the cycle and learn from others. Like so many times out of the like someone would ask a question to me and I would maybe have one view to answer it. Like, I don't know, how do you I talk about data platforms a lot, data platforms in regulated industries and security of data platforms a lot. It's kind of like I really enjoy the subject. And a lot of questions are around, oh, how do you convince compliance that it's okay to put data in the cloud? So I
Mm.
will have a take on it. First of all, it leads me to think, oh, I forgot to include that in my talk. That's an interesting topic, and I
Yeah.
didn't touch on it at all.
Okay.
I have something to say, then someone else from the audience will have something to say, and someone else from the audience will have something to say. And then you meet after the talk and you all discuss and you exchange ideas. And then you might go back to your company and implement some of those ideas. And it it's awesome. And downsides, to be honest, I haven't experienced any yet.
Come
I
on.
really enjoyed doing it.
I mean,
A lot of
that can happen. Some stress, maybe some flight get canceled. Some, some issue, like some problem with like commuting there. No, nothing bad ever happened to you.
yeah, loads of things happened. But
Okay.
my first big international conference, I had a chewing gum and I forgot about it. So
Really?
somewhere
That's amazing.
somewhere out there, there is a recording of me speaking at O'Reilly Software Architecture Conference in Berlin with a chewing gum.
With the chewing gum. Okay. Okay. Everyone, everyone, we should go and find this video. Okay, that's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. Nice.
Things happen. Like
Yeah. Sure.
I was invited to Dev Talks Romania in Bucharest in June, and I was set to fly out on Tuesday night. And that weekend, the weekend coming up, leading up to that, I decided to go to Venice, and all of my flights were cancelled, going there and going back. So I was
Wow.
stuck in Venice. And I thought, well, if I need to get to London and then try to fly out from London the next
Mm.
day, that doesn't make any sense. So I had to stay in Venice and then contact the organizers to kind of change my hotel reservations, change my flight reservations, and they were amazing in
Wow.
helping me. I'm really, really grateful to them. But that happened. But also, like, yeah, I made it to Bucharest despite all of those things. So I kind of look at it and laugh in a way. It's an adventure that
Yeah, it's an adventure.
confirms
Okay.
that the Ukrainian writer who signed me had more travels and adventures.
Yes. Nice one. Okay. So, folks, public speaking is cool. Going to conference. Okay. If you don't want to, I appreciate it can be intimidating at first. I would recommend just go to the conference first, just as
Yeah.
a regular, attendee. See the vibe, see what's going on there. Start meeting people, because something that people don't realize is a community. It's a big community. We're talking about tech in this planet, right? So it's a very big community, but it's still a community. So you will find familiar faces if you start,
Mm.
if you start joining conference, if you start, joining this kind of gig here. You will meet amazing people, and you will find familiar faces, and someone can, maybe you get invited then, right? Because someone maybe wants to invite you, just wants you to give a talk. So you can really get into a very interesting mechanism in order to get better, in order to network, in order to meet new people. It's very, very important. Last question, because we are almost out of time. What about for women in tech who's either retrained into tech or else? did a career switch into tech. How do we break down all of the silos to learn, to gain some mentorship, to get help into work? Very good question.
Mhm. I think in this case, the big enterprises are like an easier path in because they often have programs like diversity and inclusion
Yeah.
programs. I have opinions on how pushy they are sometimes, but that's beyond the question. They do have those programs. They have internship programs. They have like return to work programs
Yeah.
to specifically geared to women who might have had a break from career and want to return back into the workforce. So things like those 70,000 people, big enterprises.
Mm.
And also you will have a bigger that safety net, that support network that you might have um, in big enterprise will also come in handy if you are converting or if you are returning from a pause in your career. There are boot camps if you want to learn quickly and get some skill set quickly. There are specific boot camps that run for a couple of months and give you a baseline skill set. A lot of them are geared towards software engineering and data.
Mm.
So that's something that you're interested in. They are not exactly well geared towards systems and DevOps and platform engineering, but often the graduates of those boot camps get hired into a graduate program where you are on a temporary contract and you are paid less, but you're learning. Then the expectation of the team that is hiring you and yourself is that you're not coming in with a full skill set. You're coming in to learn and to
Sure.
become a valuable part of the team. So there is this learning and contribution that goes into graduate programs as well.
Yeah, very interesting graduate programs and also all the boot camps. There are probably the boot camp I would say is the quote unquote easiest way if you do something else and you want to switch career switch into tech. Probably a boot camp is you know in terms of time consuming, in terms of cost, is probably the best option in order to get this baseline, right? Because of course, don't even don't think for a second that after the boot camp you are a software engineer. You are far from being a software engineer, but of course you've gathered the very important tools, the fundamental tools that you need to use and you know and hone and perfect during time, during your internships, during your graduation schemes. So yeah,
Mhm.
as it's very important also for companies, because when we talk about these things it might sound that it is only for the students. So the students are the only one who you know gain value, which is absolutely not true. The companies get a lot of value in having you know fresh and you know young people and people with a lot of passion, because if you do a career switch, for sure you are passionate. I can
Mhm.
I can guarantee that, right? It's impossible you would have stayed in your in your path, you know. No, if you are a career switch, you are very determined, very you know motivated, and you can in not that long you can really become an asset for your team
Yeah,
and for the company.
100%. And you don't have like the very kind of blunt part of hiring new graduates or switchers is that those people don't have the bad habits yet. They don't have their preferred way of doing things yet.
Yes,
You
exactly.
can really shape them into like
Yes.
not shape them, that doesn't really
No, no, I
sound
know,
nice,
no.
but you can
Yes.
teach them the ways of working of your team, and you can teach it faster than someone who comes with a lot of expertise and is like, oh, this is not how I did it in my previous company. Okay, you did it in your previous company. You are now part of this team.
Hmm.
Please learn. Also, teach us. Maybe we're doing
Exactly.
something wrong. Of course, that's super valuable. But don't come with an attitude, you know. And new grads and switchers don't have an attitude, which is great.
Yeah, exactly, because they are more often than not. I know because you know I've had a few in the teams that I manage. More often than not,
Mhm.
they are grateful for the opportunity to have you know to have this opportunity
Absolutely.
to do the to get you know joining tech, which is pretty cool. So they are very you know humble in a right way. So you should be humble, right? You should, especially after
Yeah.
a you know boot camp. So and they more often than not they've got the right you know mindset. Last but not least, fresh new ideas from diverse background. Yes, I think that diversity is important because it's a way to get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I go beyond what's right in terms of the metaphysics. A diverse team is just a better team. That's it.
Yeah.
Quite full stop. That's it. So that's why it's very important to to have this kind of D&I strategy for companies. Natalie, we unfortunately ran out of time. I think that we could have stayed here for another hour easily,
For sure.
but I think so. Maybe you will come at some point again here as a guest, maybe in a few months, because there is so much more that I want to talk to you and with you. So, but for now, thank you to for joining this little podcast, this ChatGDG. It was
Thank
it
you for
was it was
having me.
great. It was
It was.
absolutely great.
It
So
was.
thank you. Thanks everyone that follows us. And yeah, see you next week. And do you know who's coming next week? Shh, it's a little secret. The folks from GDG Glasgow, Jose and Clara. Yes. We are
Amazing.
gonna
They're
do an
such lovely
episode
people.
with both of them, husband and
Yeah.
wife, in tech.
Oh,
It's gonna be fun, hopefully.
well, they're lovely. Everyone,
Yeah.
you do tune in next week. They're
Yeah, they
absolutely
are
lovely
great.
and such good stories as well.
Yes. Hopefully it's gonna be fun. Okay, Nat. Thank you so very much. Have a fantastic evening. And yeah, see you very, very soon. Thanks, thanks everyone.
Grazie,
Bye.
Stefano. See you, everyone. Bye.